So welcome to the first tutorial video. In this video we're going to be focusing on creating Kemper profiles. So I'm going to show you the signal path and the way that I check the blend on the mics. We'll record the direct amp and we'll check out that blend and look at how to set that up and get a consistent result. And then we'll actually create a profile and we'll record that profile and check it against a reference profile. So to start with, let's look at the signal path. All right, so what we're looking at here is the signal path that I'm using to profile the Kemper. So we'll start on the top left, looking at the guitar to the front input of the Kemper. So obviously you don't use the guitar when the profiler's actually creating the profile, but you do use the guitar for two other reasons, and that's to initially listen to the blend on the mics that's coming into the Kemper, as well as to refine the profile. All right, and then from the Kemper, from the alternate output on the back of the Kemper to your amp front input, so that's like where you would typically plug your guitar into, and that's where the different tones will be sent from the Kemper into the amp for profiling. And sitting in front of the amp are two mics. So we have an SM7B and a Cascade Fathead as our two mics, and I'll show you that setup just a moment. And then the two mics are coming back into a mixer. In my case, I'm running it back into a Presonus 2442 digital mixer and on channels 13 and 14. So that's how I'm summing the lines back. So once it comes into line 13 and 14, I then assign that to a subgroup. If you don't have subgroups, it can be sent to just the main output, and you would use like just the left channel as a mono output to run back to the Kemper. In my case, I'm using a sub out, so 13 and 14 get routed to a subgroup 1, and then the output of subgroup 1 goes into the alternate input on the back of the Kemper. All right, and that is the loop. So I'll run through it one more time just to make sure we're clear on the inputs. So guitar into the front input, it only works on the front input during profiling. So to the front input from the Kemper alternate out to the amp input, just the same input that you would plug your guitar into. You've got mics and sitting in front of the amp. They come back to the mixer, such as input 1 and 2. Input 1 and 2 can go to main or to another subgroup and then be sent out as a single mono channel to the alternate input on the Kemper. All right, so that's the signal path. Let's take a look at the amp setup. Okay, so real quickly, the mic on the top is the Fathead. It's at the center of the right speaker on the 2x12 combo. What we're profiling today is a PV Valve King. It's an all-tube amp. So we have the Cascade Fathead at the top, dead center in the cone. And then on the bottom we have a PV, or a PV, not a PV, a Shure SM7B. And that's just a little, about 50% on the dust cover of the speaker. All right, so we're running these two mics back to the board. And we'll next take a look at the board, and then we'll start getting some profiles. All right, so now we're looking at the board. I'm going to show you, I have them labeled here. The Fathead is at channel 13, and the SM7B is at channel 14. On these digital mixers, you can select the different inputs and route them to different outputs. So if I select 13 and 14, the assignment is here. So this assigns it to an output. 13 and 14 are both assigned to main and to sub 1. All right, so sub 1 is routed on the back. There's a 1/4 inch output going from sub 1 to the alternate input on the Kemper. All right, so no EQs, no processing going on there. It's just to sum everything to the subgroup. All right, now we're going to start working in Studio One. So let me get it pulled up here. We'll wipe out these bottom 3 tracks. So what I've got at the top is a reference track. This is a new profile from Tone Junkie. This is the Trident, one of the profiles from Trident, which is a Mesa Boogie amplifier. All right, and then we have our Fathead and our SM7B routed to the corresponding inputs, which are channel 13 and 14. This is routed out to a bus for right now, so I can control the volume in relation to the other tracks. We have another track, track 5 at the bottom. Track 5 is the input from the Kemper. So we're going to create a Kemper profile, and then we'll record that on track 5 and do a comparison. So these two are routed directly to the mics. So I'm going to arm them and unmute them. And I'm going to put the Kemper into profiling mode. And that will send the signal now through the through the output directly to the amp, which we're seeing there. So we're getting the signal from the amp through the mic. All right, so I'm just going to record quickly to show you how to track or how to check the blend of the mics, is also how you would make any updates to that. So you don't need much. You really just need a quick tone test where you can check the blend. I'm going to put my headset on real quick so I can hear it. All right, so we're going to play back what we just recorded and listen to the blend. And as you noticed when I started playing, there were gain settings that were showing up, right? We could see what the gain levels were on each channel. So as we make any blend adjustments here, we can see what adjustments we make. And I find it the easiest just to change the gain setting on the board itself and then leave everything else at 0. So I'm really just using the trim on the gain on the board to do the blend. All right, so let's take a listen to this. If it wasn't muted. All right, so I'm targeting -24 right there. And the reason for that is I want these to be level. I don't want my ear to be fooled by the volume. All right, so that's our reference track. That's the Trident. And then here's the amp sound that we just got. All right, so quite a big difference there. So the 13 is the Fathead. Let's just mute out the 14. Listen to the 13 by itself. So there's a big difference between the 13, which is the Fathead. Let's listen to this SM7B. All right, so I hear some high end in there. The funny thing is I hear the high end in the fathead, which is odd. So let's listen to that again. All right, so that's interesting. So we can do a comparison on that. So you could EQ, change the EQ of the amp is probably what I would try to do first. Maybe up some of the resonance and back down the high end. But I'm just going to stick with this for now, and then I'll show you at the end kind of how to visualize what the EQ change is related to your reference amplifier, or in this case, our reference profile. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to mute these guys, and we're going to create the profile now. And I'm going to turn the main down. I'll try to control it so you can hear the actual profile process, but it's more annoying than anything else. Okay, welcome back. So what we did was went ahead and created a recording of the profile that we created. Okay, so that's on channel 5 or track 5 down here in purple. All right, and our reference track is at the top. So let's compare our EQ curves using our spectrum meter and see what the differences are. And we can kind of EQ out channel 5 to tell us what we need to do to get to that point or to match our reference profile. So first we'll listen to track 5. So that's the profile that we just created. And I'm just going to double check the meter to make sure you're hearing that, because I just wasted a lot of time because you couldn't hear that. All right, looks like you're getting the signal now. All right. So again, one more time, track 5. All right, and our reference track, which is the Tone Junkie Trident. All right, quite a sizable difference. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these two spectrum meters, and I really actually don't like this one, but let's see. Let's try the 144. Maybe that'll do it. Yeah, that actually does help quite a bit. So you see, there are some similarities between the two different tracks. But what I notice, especially, is this jump around 2.2K and a dip right here around 560, somewhere between 450 and 550. And it seems pretty obvious, right? If you're comparing this one to this one, you can see that there's like a top and a little swoop down to
2.8. And then we hit the 2.2 here. Here's the 2.8 on our profile, and it's not the peak, right? So here's a 2.2. 2.8 is about the same. We got a little bit higher, 1.4. But on the right side, our 1.4 is considerably lower. So you can see the scoop difference, or the EQ curve difference between the two, which is fine. So let's listen to them and let's see if our assumptions are correct. So the only thing we can do to prove that is let's EQ it and see if we can get it closer. It's all objective. All right, so we want to try to figure out what the differences are and why, right? And luckily this guy has a nice little slow fade there, and we can kind of see big difference in the curve. This one slowly goes down where we have a nice little boost at 2.2K. All right, so let's listen to this. All right, and the reference. All right, so let's take some 2.2K out of there, since that seems to be the most obvious next step. All right, so we're 2.2. We're dropping it down. What is that? 3 dB. Let's see what that does. All right, so we got some interesting thing is like, what's this? 4.5. So the 4.5 is a little higher on the Trident. So I'm going to try to boost the 4.5 just a little bit. Maybe a little more. All right, so I think the highs are in alignment now. It's more the mids that are different. And what we hear here. So on ours, I hear a little bit of a sharpness that's lacking body somewhere, right? So the curves are close, but they're definitely different, right? This one has kind of a constant down curve, where this one has a belly to it a little bit here, right? So where is the bottom of the belly? 1.1K. So let's see if we can find that 1.1K. This is about right there. And we'll just boost it by, 3.5 dB seems fine. Oh, we're definitely getting closer. Let's try 355. I don't want to boost it too much. All right, we're close, but there's still a scoop. You can hear it. You can hear the high end in the reference that doesn't have the harsh mids, where our profile does, right? I still think that's around the 2.2. Turn that back on. I wish I had one more. See, it comes down to highs now. grab that shelf and boost it a little bit. Yep, there's still some mids in there. So you see the process. So it's figuring out what I would do is sit here and figure out exactly what I am trying to target, right? And then once I figure out what that EQ curve is that I try to target, then I replicate these changes on the amp itself and zero everything back out, right? It's all about tuning in the amp to match what your target tone is. So it's a lot of trial and error. Once you get that figured out, then you just blast the profiles out and you're done. Right?